Hey guys, I'm Caitlin Sheffer and I'm bringing you some fun new things today. A while back, I did a honest review of this book, The Joy of Watercolor by Emma Block. I loved this book and a lot of you guys did too. So I thought it was time to do another book review. This time it's the Art for Joy's Sake journal. It's a watercolor journal of sorts. I haven't opened it yet. I wanted to give you guys a true, honest review. So we're gonna open it up together and see what it's like. It's essentially, let's see, it says Watercolor Discovery and Releasing Your Creative Spirit. It's by Kristy Rice. She's a very talented watercolor artist. I've followed her for a long time. So I know I love her stuff, but I'm really curious to see how she's incorporated these things into a journal. So let's dive in and we will get our first look together. Let's do this. Okay, so it's a nice tall book, good size. Let's open it up. Pages are nice and thick. Looks like there's a letter from Kristy. It says 9 patterns await. 1 of each is painted by moi and 2 are for your own experimenting. So it looks like she paints 1 and then you paint 2. She has some tips, some info on the supplies you need. Some book recommendations. Let's see, write down the top 10 things that scare you when making art. So it looks like she has some prompts since it is a journal. And this first one is called Sedum and Tomatoes, kind of her tips and tricks. Oh, okay, so here's her example, and then here is what you would paint. So there's 2 attempts, and then there's a prompt that you're supposed to journal your thoughts. Make art for joy's sake. Roses and clementines. Oh, that's pretty. I like that one. Okay, so I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to flip through the book and pick my favorite pattern, and then we will go through the process together. Okay, so I looked through the book and I love all of them. They have such beautiful floral, cheerful patterns to choose from, some with fruit. But I ended up picking plums and peonies, which is about halfway through the book. One nice thing that I didn't notice initially is that the journal comes with a ribbon to mark your place, so you can mark where you're at in the journal. She has some tips right here on what you can do to get motivated. Things like diffusing essential oils, take a walk outside, etc. So that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to focus on getting creative and getting motivated to do something besides binging The Office on Netflix. All right, so plums and peonies. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, remember, this is my first time using this, so we get to go on this journey together. I'm going to just mix up a nice deep red. I think I'll go with a little bit of a different color scheme. Now the good thing is there's really no right or wrong way to do this since it's your own personal journal. There's no pressure. I think I'm going to start with this one. All right, so my first impression is the paper is really nice. It's like a hot press in that it's very smooth. There's not a lot of tooth to the paper. Let me see if I can get a close-up for you. So there's really no texture or very little texture to the paper, but I have a decent amount of water on my brush and it's not running all over the place. So I'm pretty happy with the absorbency of the paper. Sometimes I was that was probably the thing I was the most curious about with this book, was what the paper was going to be like. Because if the paper's no good, then it's kind of hard to use it. So now I'm going to be a little less tight. I'm going to have more broad strokes. And as you can see, I didn't color just the specific leaves. I didn't stay in the line, so to speak. But this is why, is I'm going to go in now with a little bit of a brighter pink and drop it in like this and watch how it bleeds differently. So as you can see with hers, she has lots of variation in the color. It's not just one solid color for the whole flower, and that's kind of what I want to do. Adding a little bit of green to my pink to get a nice dark color from the center. Maybe add a little bit in right here. This is one of the inner petals. There's some more right here. It's a little bit tricky to see. But overall, my first impression is I like it. It's really, the paper is a lot better than what I was expecting. So I'm gonna add a little more water and see how the paper holds up. It is pooling a little bit, so I would say if you're heavy-handed with the water, just be careful. I like how this worked out over here. Okay. I'm just going to work on filling in these petals. I went ahead and painted the other peony on this page, and what I've gathered from this is that the paper handles pretty well. It's still not, it's not the same as if you were to use your typical watercolor paper, cold pressed, nice thick stock. But I will say it is definitely holding up a lot better than I thought. It's really good for this particular use, which is just kind of a nice creative exercise. And I think what I've decided after painting these two flowers is that I'm going to go in at the end with some of my watercolor pencils. I think it'll be fun to add in detail that way, just because the paper is a little bit thinner than I'm used to working with, and I'm afraid if I go in several times to add in detail, it might get a little bit, the paper might pill a little bit. So I think that's what I'm gonna do at the end, and I will show you how I do that when that time comes. And actually looking closely to Kristy's, it looks like that's what she did as well. She went in with a pencil, either a watercolor pencil or just a regular number 2 pencil. She went in and added some details. So I think that's what I'm gonna do. All right, so I'm gonna keep going and we'll see how it turns out in the end. now that I've given my paints a chance to dry, I am looking over it and it's really blended nicely. There's really not too much puddling, so I'm very impressed with the paper overall. It was perfect. I don't really have any complaints. So now that it's dried, I'm gonna go in with my watercolor pencil and add a little bit of detail, just like Kristy has done on her side. You can see she's just added some veining, some shading, just to give you a better idea of the direction of the petals. So that's what I'm gonna do. You can use watercolor pencils if you have them, or you can just use a regular pencil. That would be just fine. I'm using the Arteza brand Expert watercolor pencils. Okay, so I'm just gonna kind of mimic what Kristy's done by, I'll kind of show you what I mean is I'm using a charcoal, the color charcoal, and I'm just going to add in some lines to show the dimension and shape of the petals, kind of helping your eye lead to the right direction. And I really love this style. You can be loose. You can add in as much or as little as you want. That's the great thing, is that this is a journal. This is meant to just be a place where you can relax and let your mind wander. This is probably a place that I'm going to add in a little more definition, because when I went in with the yellow, I really didn't differentiate at all. Well, that is it for the plums and peonies, and I have to tell you guys that I really enjoyed this. I was pleasantly surprised at the quality of the paper. You can see that there is some warping from the water, but it is a lot better than I anticipated. The cool thing is you get to try twice, so you can see if you want to do a different color scheme. I really enjoyed it. This review is completely my own opinion. I bought this with my own money. It was not sponsored. It was not given to me. So this is a true, honest review. And I hope it helped. And I hope that some of you check it out, because I think it would be a really good thing to work on when you're feeling stressed out, or you just need a good diversion that's not Netflix. All right, you guys, I'll see you soon, and I hope to hear from you. Leave a comment below if you have any questions, and I will talk to you guys soon. Bye.